Welcome to Critical Thinking. I'm your host, AT, and I got a very special guest, a reoccurring guest, my dog, Justo. Tell him what's up, bro.
Hi, how are you?
He said, "Hi, how are you?" Smooth voice. Bro just got done working the shift, tired. I understand it. It's real. That's the real life. And then we got another special guest in the corner with us. She gonna chime in as well. Tori Tyrese, the beautiful, talented data analyst.
Hey y'all.
She said, "Hey y'all," like Outcast. But let's get into it, man. Hmm? You said turn the other way, brother.
What's today's topic?
Man, let me look at my notes and I give you the spiel. I'm sorry, I'm unprepared as always. That's a changing thing. So today's episode is called "Cultivating Harmony and Nurturing Your Environment." So with cultivating harmony and nurturing your environment, you have to look within before you look outward. So looking within, personally in my environment, I know I'm jittery and stuff, so I gotta find a way to calm down in terms of being too attentive to things. Like over attentiveness is a problem, just as under attentive. You gotta find the right balance. So personally, I'm trying to really move into that, and that's today's topic. So, what you got on that, brother?
All right. I feel like when people talk about looking within, we talk about looking within, but I'm more so going to talk about a good way to know how to look within. I feel like a lot of us check our bodies and we check our like nervous system and we consider that looking within. And knowing your body is important because it does tell a lot about like where you at and it does tell you a lot about yourself. But if you want to go deeper than that, looking within could look like simply going about your regular routine and seeing what parts of your day actually drain you and what parts of your day actually fill you up and nurture you. Or like where you just feel fulfilled after whatever act it is. And if you're going about your day and you realize you don't have moments of fulfillment, even if it's like little micro moments, then you will have to start switching some stuff around. And things you got to start switching around are like the main things that drain you the most. Like it may be some things you have to inevitably deal with, and it's always going to be like an uncomfortable experience. But if there is something in your control and you know for sure that it's taking a lot of you to do it and you don't want to do it, nor do you have to, be that being like in a situation you shouldn't be in and don't have to, or in a friendship or relationship you shouldn't be in or don't have to, or if you have the ability to like switch jobs or like livelihoods. Um, I would say start with like how you time yourself throughout the day. Start with your food. Start with like the music and the media you consume. Like these are like little micro things you can start with. But I feel like people need to know the discernment between seeking stimulation and seeking true nourishment. And those are some steps how.
So, seeking one. Everybody struggles with discerning stimulation for actual growth, and within growing, that comes with discernment. Uh, but to cultivate an environment that you want and removing the things that you don't need there, how can you? Not even how, like having an objective lens is key because it's not how you can do it because you have to do it. Everybody's how is going to be different because everybody lives a subjectively different life. But I'm seeing in the world currently it's a lot of pleasure seeking, and pleasure usually precedes pain. So within that, how do you remove yourself from the instant feeling of growth, because growth only comes with struggle. So how do you remove yourself from that feeling and associating that feeling with it not being good?
I think we fixate more on like we fixate more on pain, but I feel like that's simply because like most of our modern society is like centered around avoiding pain. But I think certain pains need to be faced and embraced actually, like reintegrated back into like regular society. I think some things are painful or like just hard to deal with, and that's kind of normal. I'm not saying like you should suffer everything you do, but we have to understand that the reason we seek pleasure is purely to get around that some things are painful and we would rather be comfortable than in pain. That's most of us. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's real. Like, I don't want to be any more uncomfortable than you do. But the fact that you develop a way to navigate discomfort is where like wisdom is built in a foundation. Like, it's for example, like if you're in a conversation and you feel like it's uncomfortable for you to tell the truth, so you just tell a lie to smooth it over. Like that's not a good habit to have because you will start lying to yourself when you get uncomfortable. Like, or it actually started with yourself and then it like bled out into your relationships or your reputation. But um, another way to really consider how to deal with pain is you have to look at your relationship to it. Like, why do you feel like that's painful? And then you have to look at on a scale of like what your actual desire is, how much pain you're willing to deal with. Because I I don't think people understand like when they shoot for the stars, that comes with a lot of pain. Like it's easy to get the low bearing fruit, but even the beautiful parts of life suck. Like they have painful parts. Like roses have thorns. It's simple like that. Like we need to understand that no matter what you do, there's pain on the other side of that. And whether you seek the pain first and expect pleasure after, it just understand fundamentally like they're not really separate. Like you're gonna be happy, then it's gonna go back to sucking again. And then when it sucks, it's not about sustaining happiness. It's about like getting through the part that sucks, knowing that like it's cyclical. Like you're gonna have your ups and downs. And that's easier said than done for sure. But fundamentally that's what you gotta do.
Yeah, and that concept plays on a similar concept like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So in that hierarchy, it always says something will knock you off the plateau that you land on, no matter what you do. And so one thing that I'm big on is finding gratitude in every situation. Like even if you think it's the worst situation in your life, it's a positive out of that situation. I know personally, like shit, I went to jail, but going to jail, I don't know why. Getting out, it just made me more focused. It made me a adult earlier than I would have been became an adult. Like changed my outlook on life, honestly. I feel like I spent the last months of my childhood incarcerated. And me doing that, it's a tough lesson. The pain preceded the pleasure, but it's pleasurable seeing that I matured out of things that people struggle with way earlier. Like having to, discipline forced on you, it implements it into your life. I don't wish jail on my worst enemy, but at the same time, if you go through that experience or if you go through a tough experience, it's labeled a crucible because it's a trial. And like you said, wisdom is gained through experience. And I feel like not enough people want to go through the things that's necessary to be an experienced person. It's a phenomenon going on that people don't understand. Is it's a lot of adults with the mentality of a 12-year-old. So you gotta get past that, and you could say that goes into the shallow nature of people nowadays that are captivated by materialism. You can go like because it's all the images that they see on TV, and like that's the only thing that they have a model of, so that's what they pursue. And like we was talking about pain and pleasure, not understanding the pain that comes with that major pleasure that you see of those expensive items. because people not understanding the value of time, and a lot of time is traded for dollars, and in the end, your time was way more valuable than whatever you could get materialistically. And I feel like that's the root of all unhappiness in America nowadays is materialism and capitalism, honestly.
I feel like a lot of people do have to take accountability, but then there's another side of that where I do understand that like some of this is all people know. And for the people who don't know like where they are on that spectrum of like if you're conscious of if you're just being a slave to consumerism or if you're standing out by yourself, like you have to really think about what you have and what you actually like how you mentioned gratitude. Like if you really are going about your life without gratitude, then you have to actually question are you around things you even need? And I think like the first thing when it comes down to your needs, like you have to think about like the things you value the most, like the things you actually can't be without. And like, are you surrounded by things you can't be without? Or are you surrounded by things like you're like naturally going to ignore? You're naturally going to neglect because they don't do shit for you. And like when we talk about materialism, like, yeah, that's a status thing, but the mass delusion is that we think living somebody else's dream is what makes us matter. Because a lot of us get shit we don't want. Like a lot of us try to live lives that aren't even us, or we try to like fit in with people who don't really resonate with us for that feeling of like it's like a micro sense of superiority. Like you just don't want to be the guy that isn't getting the attention. You don't want to be the person that isn't getting all this love and admiration. And that don't mean you're not gonna be admired for the wrong things. Like you can get that, but you gotta still think about the quality of that. I think when it comes down to like a social status, I feel like the people's opinion that matter the most in your life are people who actually care about your growth. And like I know we say that, but I think we mistake that for people wanting to see us in a good mood versus people wanting us to grow. Because plenty of people, it's easier for people to not want to see you mad, bro. Like that don't mean they really care about you for real. That just mean they can't deal with your intense emotions and they can only deal with a handful of them. The fun part to you is like what people can deal with, but the parts of you that have to face the fear of like failing at the things you want the most, people don't want to see that. Like people don't even know how to nurture that. And so that's something I feel like people should ponder. Like if you really can't express your struggles around people, are they really like conducive to you growing?
I'm gonna ask a question though. Do you something intrinsic shouldn't be relying on external factors? So your growth is gonna be independent of those people, and so do you think placing the expectation of necessarily understanding on people uh, could hinder your growth?
I think yeah, but I'm saying if you're gonna have friends with intent. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're going to if you really feel like people slow you down, there's no point in having friends just to feel like every time you do something with them, they holding you back. That's pointless. But if you are going to have friends and friends are an investment in your life, then be around people who can invest back. That's what I'm saying. Everybody can't do the lone wolf thing. And some people do need success in a group. And you've seen some people have success in a group, whereas they couldn't have it by themselves. So I'm not gonna knock either or, like, but you have to figure that out. Like if you're around people that's weighing you down and you have to question that, damn, try to be by yourself and see how far you could get. And if you realize that like maybe your way ain't working, maybe you feel like the world is against you and like you're the only person that's right, and you feel like you go further on your own. That may be true to a point. Like there are parts of yourself that you could only do alone. But then there are other parts in the world where you probably needed like a little help, a little guidance, or just a little support, and that's okay too, because that might be temporary. It doesn't mean you have to expect it long term, but definitely saying like anything you do should have some level of intent for your growth, like even from the small things. And I'm not trying to say like every habit I have is massively going to make me successful, but I do try to have intent, like, and I try to consistently pour into my intent, and I feel like my life has changed because of that.
And so we keep on touching on the subject of growth and change and adaptation, basically. So touching on those subjects, do you ever question the need for growth? Because the need for growth really isn't present because any moment could be your last. So that means that you lived your life perfectly because you're unique in your path. So with that being said, we place a lot of hypergamy on ourselves in terms of we always want to grow, we always want to be better. And that's something that I struggle with is like sometimes I'm doing too much to grow and not enough to be present in the growth that I already experienced. It's like overlooking the present to get to the future is something that a lot of us struggle with in terms of being active in our current environment, current moment. Like I know a good example of people neglecting the current moment in their current environment is I see a lot of people complaining about the president. Like I do a lot of jokes about the presidential race because I understand like it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things just because your local politics touch you first, and then your state politics, and then eventually your federal politics. So the problem with that being not enough people are having enough know how or onus on the people who are currently affecting them. And the reason why your current environment is how it is because of the people in the administration within that county or province or however it's boarded up. And I'm just, I don't know. With that being said, what what can get everybody to a mindset where they understand that they're their perfect selves and not have to seek education, which is honestly, in my opinion, the forms of education that we seek out are another form of sharecropping because they give you a substantial amount of liability in terms of attaining whatever knowledge you need to be successful in the field that you choose. But they don't tell you the time value of the money that's going to grow and accrue against you as a result. Granted, you could pay it off and do whatever you got to do, but the negative is if you didn't come from means, that's a substantial setback in terms of how you can navigate professionally and navigate in your personal life. But that's the trade off you have to make in order to be successful. But if you examine it, you live in the same lifestyle you live, but in a different environment. It's like you sharecropping because your labor is more important than your actual quality of life. So how can people shift out of the need to do that? And what can we nurture within our communities to make it so it's possible for that to take place for us?
Well, I feel like, for example, like you mentioned politics. I feel like the quality of your life is really dependent on if you're actually doing something in alignment with like what you feel in your heart. For example, if somebody wants to be a politician, no matter what my political stance is, I'm gonna support them trying to be the best. Why? Because I feel like if you actually care about politics, then you will see change. Now, if you're saying you're chasing politics for money, you actually care about money, then I'm not gonna, you know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna look at that the same way. Like based on your values, if that's a power move and you just need a leg up in society and that's why you want to be in politics, that's different from somebody who wants to get to the top position to make change. So I kind of leave that up in the air for how people want to live their life because what I feel like is a low quality, somebody else might feel like they ultra grateful for. I feel like when it comes down to going with like having our time go into sharecropping, that comes with waking up. Like that, everybody can't do that. But then I have to understand some people can. Like some people's bread and butter is that they've stayed at the same job for 30, 40 years, weathered the storm, and got their success through that job, like trying to make it work. And that's some people's success. So I don't try to take that from them. But I do try to really endorse and support people who know that's not them. Like when you really know that maybe you have an entrepreneur spirit, or maybe you just can't really get with the mundane shit that other people are going through. I think most people have that potential too, but I have to acknowledge that in the path of really trying to find the best way to help the community relate to itself and grow and heal, some people have the autonomy to live how they want. And I have to really look at it like I used to think like maybe if some people had certain education or certain resources, or like they had certain opportunities, they wouldn't make certain decisions. And it's been proven that they will, because people are who they are. I think relating back to the community, you have to care about the potential of what people can do. Like, if we're going to do the whole, I'm gonna just lock in on my own, it's gonna be hard to build a community. But if you cultivate compassion for knowing that somebody else just like you is suffering through whatever they have to go through in life, it may be different, but fundamentally, there's a suffering happening, and all they're trying to do is find their own peace in all the suffering that comes with life. And if you can relate to that and try to support them and even love them through that, and love with a detachment, not like you have to really intertwine your problems with theirs, but love in a way where you're not judging them for the problems that they have, but you're trying to help them get through it, because you know that if they're in a good position, they could also help people coming up after them. That's what like the community will have to do. And we would have to understand how different we are, and we would have to look at our differences and really pick apart how we could support each other and be different. But I think the first thing we have to get over is that we're not all the same. And I think the judgment comes because we look at other people that we feel should be a certain way, or should have been raised a certain way, or should have been disciplined a certain way. And we keep putting out should when that doesn't apply to everybody, and that doesn't help everybody be successful. So I think that it's possible, but it's a problem that has a solution that might take a while, and it's an unfolding. Like I don't think it's going to be a gradual, not gradual, but I don't think it's going to be something that instantly wakes people up. But I do think it would be like you would have to plant enough seeds for that to really cultivate on its own years from now.
So I agree that anything that you would want to cultivate would require the group, and you can't really lone wolf it. But I feel like sometimes the group is not aware of the self sabotage that is implanted within the group, and not to judge it, just to be objective. Like it's a lot of things that are implanted within the black culture to profit from the black culture, not to benefit the black culture. Uh, so something that people don't understand: the last 40 to 50 years is an anomaly in the history of mankind. We have never had this quality of life within this country in terms of everything seems to be okay, but it's not. Do you like? I know these numbers are like hysteria strikers, but it makes sense. The cost of living now doesn't match the income at a major level of inequality due to the recent inflation. So, just for reference, the property values in the South and the southwest suburbs of Chicago, they had like 100% tax assessment increase. So, say you paid 2,500 last year, you paying for 5 bands now. And imagine if you had your escrows for 2,500, now you have an extra expense of 2,500. Tough. But I go into that to say like I don't think it's the collective approach is working, and I think like having a collective approach in terms of everybody can make it with us, like everybody can be saved. In terms of that, that's what has the ship sinking per se. I think the approach is put the information, put the knowledge out there, and market it as such as a way, another path. Not saying this is the path, but I don't want people to think that they have to be exceptional to be a success. My problem is it's not enough quality of life out here in terms of it don't make fucking sense if a motherfucker works 40 hours a week and they can't afford like common necessities. And to put this in proportion to other places in the world currently, that's not the case if you're in Europe. You'll get a 35 ball, and that's like they say that's slavery. In Spain, you get a siesta in the middle of the day, and the day doesn't start till 10 a.m. So you have from 6 p.m. all the way to 10 a.m. with your family. The thing that people aren't understanding about America, we weren't made to be in the corporate structure throughout the whole country. We used to be a different structure country, but because we became a safe haven to corporations, our way of life was changed by corporations through the policies that they were able to pass. It started in the 1920s and this shit unraveled to this, bro. The problem is not enough people are aware that the issue isn't what you're doing. The issue is the people conducting the system aren't putting enough into the system as much as they're taking out. Like I worked in the government personally, bro. It's a high level of incompetence, but because people are vested, it doesn't matter. But you see, I worked on a county level. I can only imagine on a federal level. I can only imagine on a state level because those people who have been there for years, they've been there for years. But do you know how fast technology evolves? You have to keep in mind people who are, I want to say, below the age of 32 are light years ahead of somebody who's just over that edge of 34, 35 in terms of being able to operate technology. And we take it for granted because that's a common thing that everybody has in our age group. But if you look over the edge, the opposite age group does not have that. And those are the majority of the people operating all of our systems. Our systems aren't fucked up. It's fucked up people in those systems. So like you see all this mass hysteria and all this like United States not as fucked up as people think it is, but people have to become more aware of the fact that I don't think an old motherfucker should be the technology head in terms of operations. I think they'll excel in terms of management. But the problem is those are the majority of the people in those positions that we would need somebody who has a more sound skill set. But because we're in a time where we're evolving in terms of revolution, in terms of technology being fluid throughout culture. So I feel like shit ain't as fucked up as it is, but we need a mindset shift in terms of we gotta think about not our issue, but the environment that cultivated the options that made that issue present. And in terms of that, it's just personal like accountability. Like, damn, we did have this motherfucker in office for 50 years and ain't shit changed in this town, if not got worse. We haven't had any continuity in our mayor's office. Maybe that's the reason why things don't get better. Like people just gotta examine certain things about the environment and like I don't know. And we can be positive with people, which I'm a very positive person. I'm very uplifting, but at the same time, you have to be real with people too, because sometimes telling somebody it's gonna be all right makes them complacent. When you gotta tell them, hey, shit fucked up. If you don't do shit, this shit gonna get worse. I would rather somebody tell me that than shit gonna be okay, because I know shit gonna be okay, because time heals all. But I don't know the consequence of this impact and I may become complacent because you saying shit gonna be okay. Not, but that's an individual thing with your mindset if you get complacent. But I'm just saying like it may cultivate that in others as well because I see that within myself. So like I I personally can take a harsh criticism, but some people may have been harshly criticized consistently, so sometimes they need the softness. You feel me? But in terms of like what's missing in society nowadays is in terms of telling a motherfucker, nah, man, that shit not all right. Like it's a lot of shit that's not all right. But people feel so comfortable being bizarre nowadays that it's normalized to do a lot of lewd things that are just wrong. You know, like I'm not saying what people do, but I'm saying in terms of like displaying nudity to children, like just that's uniformly wrong. Like, and it's commonly in society nowadays to be very loose moral. And I feel like that's something that needs to be checked because a lot of conflict can be reduced if you just maintain uniform respect for everybody. You know.
I feel like, hmm, I'll unpack that. Well, okay. The first thing I'm gonna acknowledge is I think even when it comes down to putting out information and trying to make sure people like understand what's going on, we can't control how people digest it. And like we have to the biggest that's the biggest obstacle because we can actually look at the exact same thing and take it two totally different ways. And I personally feel like at this point, I feel like we need to market both sides. Like there's a collective mindset, but I'm not saying that should come with the we shall overcome. I feel like that's more like a we need to understand like we if we're going to take action, we need to take action like in the best interest of like the future of our people, like not just right now. Like I feel like the actions we take, we also have to consider like how that would leave a legacy behind us. Um I feel like when it comes down to like marketing self mastery and like doing the lonely path to realization and like inner transformation and shit like that. I feel like we actually need people who've done that and succeeded that to speak on it. I feel like a lot of people try that and get lost. And I feel like groups get lost too. Like there's definitely you could definitely be sheep minded. So it's not like they both don't have their own pros and cons, but we need to take successful groups and let those speak on the behalf of like what it takes to be successful as a group. And everybody who did it on their own, got it out the mud, like give a how to. And like that will be I think that would be the education needed for the people who could do those. I think when it comes down to trying to perceive like what we feel like our issues, I think we have to just think about our own needs, like our own day to day needs, and we need to find a solution for our day to day needs, and then relate that to other people. Like, see who also has the same needs as you, and like those are the people that you can help. Those are the people that can help you because y'all have the same needs. Like, I think the black community, we don't all have the same needs. We don't all have the same struggles. So we don't all need the same we don't need the same navigation tools. Like maybe we may need them at a different point in life, or maybe we need some longer than others, but we're all navigating something different. So what you may call like maturity in the beginning of your life may only be like subject to you. Like that might be maturity somebody has lived their whole life and never needed. You know what I'm saying? Like you just never know how people are carved in that way. So for you, like I would say, if I'm using you as an example, I would think, well, this is the mindset I would have. Whatever you went through, if you know, like you're in a point of success and you can reach back and speak on it, then market to those people. Like, don't do a everybody can do it. Nah, just it's specific people that got your issue, and that's where you need to keep it. Like, I would rather have I would rather have you oversee 5,000 people who really understand what you went through versus you speaking on the behalf of like 500,000 who only 75% can't really understand what you're saying, but at least want the things you want, but they can't feel you.
So to speak on that, bro, I don't think I'm speaking from a place of success. I think I'm speaking from a place of failure. And I just want people to avoid the mistakes that I made. And so like that'd be the place I'd be speaking from is just like examining myself, being self reflective. I try not to be stupid because I'm dumb. Because everybody's dumb at one point because nobody hears everything. So the thing about being stupid is you repeat the same mistakes, and that's like something that I examine because I'm trying to discern between what factors are environmental and what factors are internal, and then what factors are anomalies. And that's the thing that fucks a nigga head up, and you have to have a level of patience with yourself to even get into that discussion. And that takes a level of maturity because maturity comes with accountability. And like that's one thing I try and be on top of, being ultra accountable for my actions. And then later on I could get a rationale to my actions, but it's never an excuse. It's always just the why behind what happened. Because I always say shit it happened. Like I never do anything maliciously, but I can't say neglectful actions don't lead to hurtful things, you know?
I feel like that's a perspective. Because the other side of that is I don't feel like people are stupid their whole life. I feel like there is a moment where people can realize. I don't know at what point, but I don't feel like people are stupid their whole life. And I also will say that if being stupid is making the same mistake over and over again, then being smart is making the right mistakes. So I think that to get to a point of intelligence and wisdom, you should also cater to what it really means to give meaning to mistakes. Because speaking from a place of failure is fine, and that's cool. But your failure has a second half to that. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're only, if you're putting it out there, it's because you want people to succeed. So you can speak from a place of success because there are some things that you still got through. So even though you didn't like get to the point where you want to be most in life right now, there are some things that you know for sure you got through that some people might still be struggling with. And like that's the realest shit because bro, that's a success. You have to count the small ones. You know what I'm saying? Like don't look at failure as like the only metric of growth because it comes with understanding that like damn like failing at the right thing at the right time can make you successful. Like
And the harp on that, feeling at the right thing at the right time, like it's a Chinese proverb that say, if you get on the wrong train, the longer you go, the more expensive the trip. But at the same time, you might not know what adventure you might get on getting off at the wrong stop. So it's making the right mistakes. But with that though, bro, it go back to the earlier conversations of gratitude. Like you was saying, although I think I'm speaking from a place of failure in terms of the things I envision that I'll be able to provide for my environment that I'm unable to provide at this point. That's what I say in terms of failure. But I'm just learning to be graceful with myself in terms of not not judging myself so harshly in terms of saying I got to be this and that, and just being happy that I made it this far. I done what I done, and like I can say like I got a clean spirit. I ain't never do nothing malicious to nobody for real. Like I ain't never changed nobody life. Like I ain't never shoot nobody in they shit. Like I ain't never do nothing crazy, bro. Like in terms of harming another human being, and like not saying that you're a bad person if you've done that. If you feel bad about something bad you've done, you're not a bad person. That's a simply measure of a person's character and all that. And I wish more people found value in being a regular person and not trying to be something heinous or like unhuman. Like a lot of people want to be dehumanized. And I feel like more value needs to be held on not your materialistic things or your social value, but more so just being unique in yourself. It's not enough people cultivating that happiness of just being existing in their current place because Not enough people look back to where their ancestors came from. Not enough people look back to the things of, oh yeah, we leveled up from that generation to this generation. Or even if you're upon hard times, at least you survived another generation. Your families keep going. Uh, and say your family's line is ending. Say you at least you get to say you the last one or whatever you is. You feel me? You like it's always a good thing about any situation. It's going back to the conversation because I could get a little cryptic sometimes, just be negative, but like in terms of that like negativity, it's because I'm the ultimate optimist in terms of even though I feel like I'm a failure currently, I feel like these failures are going to build me to the biggest success of my life eventually. But that's the joke that God laughs at is he ain't gonna tell you when, you ain't gonna know when, it's just gonna happen. And if you diligent in the positive habits, it would happen sooner. But if you neglectful in those habits, it'll be a long way. But what's for you will still be for you. And it go back to the initial conversation of nurturing the environment that allows you to see that. Because sometimes it could get cloudy for real. Because like shit could go wrong in a hurry, and it can make you say fuck everything and get you in a negative mind state in terms of it makes you pessimistic. It makes you think that because right now is bad, it's gonna be bad for a long time. And that's a sensation that I want to cultivate in people to like have that fighter mentality of like, I may have fucked up right now, but that fuck up gonna build me to a bigger success. And it's not even in terms of monetary, it's not even in terms of getting some new shit, it's not even in terms of doing anything differently. It's just in terms of your mental outlook on life of learning, okay, there's some wisdom I can impart to the next person. I feel like more value needs to be gained or given to the common person's wisdom and not idolizing celebrity in terms of that's the only way to quantify success. I feel like that'll be a quick fix to American society as well because that'll make it so these companies and corporations can't drive you to death because you like, man, fuck that. I got a family at home. I could be there. Things like that. And make it so you don't need to update your shit every so often where you could ride out like a if you see like an island country, like I be liking how Cuba be having them old vehicles because it show like they take care of their shit.
It's interesting you say that. So, um, I asked my great grandma a question some months ago, and I was asking her, I was like, "What were your top celebrities back when you was a child?" And she said, "Baby, we ain't have no celebrities." And I was like, "What do you mean?" She was like, "One of the biggest celebrities that probably came out for like black women was probably like Diana Ross." But my great grandma grew up in the 30s. So I was like, "How did y'all listen to music? Like, what did y'all do?" And she said they used to have like concert halls and people would just like play the songs, but it wouldn't be like a main celebrity. It wouldn't be no one person that was special. It's if he knew how to sing, and you would probably know that from church or like he would have a passion in that, but there were no celebrities. There were just songs you liked. And so the fact that she had to make that a social thing too. Like there wasn't even just popping your headphones in and listening to music and you black. Many of them didn't have a record player. Like you had to just go and you had to hope you was in a community with people who play instruments. And do you know how dangerous it was to travel like with just instruments being black? Like you could get beat up, they can take your shit. You black. Like what was you gonna do? Get your trumpet back?
Fun fact. In places where it's open carry, that shit not true. Like how they teach us in the books up north. You know the reason why the civil rights movement went on because they had guns. The reason why Martin Luther King survived so long is because he was one of the most heavily armed people on this continent. And people don't know that. His guard stayed strapped. You ain't never really seen Martin Luther King get punched on, have you? I wonder why. So like, I don't know. Just to chime in with that, brother. I just want to pass that.
So double it down on that. Even when you think about Martin Luther King, like there were no black celebrities because of that. Like before that, there were none. Like you just were black. Like you had your popular guy in the town. But so I asked my grandma, I said, when did celebrities start? She said when television started. And I was like, wow, like I didn't think about that. But she was like, they commercials didn't exist pretty much like on the radio, black people didn't care about commercials because they could barely afford any fucking thing. And most of the shit that they had, they can fix on their own. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that's just how it is. Like, I'm gonna keep talking. But so I asked her like who her favorite celebrity was personally. And she said, oh, I didn't have one growing up. She was like, I didn't start liking celebrities until like Michael Jackson. And she was like, and I was slightly older than Michael Jackson. So yeah, he was a little boy by the time, he came up. But I was like, Grandma, what did you listen to? She listened to nothing but church music and like symphonic shit. Like she only listened to church music. And I was like, you didn't like that other stuff? And she was like, majority of people just listen to church music. They were no celebrities. So fast forwarding, like what's commercialized is a easier life, not a great life. Like a lot of people now have to be superstars, but then superstars on drugs. When back then, like the admiration of your community was enough. Like if you ended up doing some wild shit, no. But if you ended up like being a crash out and being a celebrity back then, that was still frowned upon. Like it wasn't celebrated. Like people didn't want Richard Pryor's drug problems. They just, you know what I'm saying? Like, so even though people appreciated people's contribution to the culture, like, is that's what has to change. Like, it's not who gets money, it's who contributes the most to the culture. And like all artists, like poets, musicians need to focus on that. Like that's a like what are you trying to like give and inspire with? Because I think if we're thinking about inspiration, the quality of what we put out will change. But I genuinely cannot say we do. Like I think we want to be related to. I think we want people to like us, and that's a gratification. But it's a different gratification sitting there being patient with somebody and like being uncertain if they even can understand how patient you being, and then you turn around and watch them be grateful for your support. Like that's a very like that's an intense experience, especially if you're not a patient person. But on an individual basis, that's hard. So you could just imagine like the level of work that would need for like we talking masses of people, bro. So I would say like whatever I try to contribute, like I said, I kind of aim it towards a tribe of people that I'm hoping like if I impact 10 people and I truthfully impact them in a positive way, that's just better than me being seen by 100 and like I'm just somebody they remember by face type shit.
So that going to what like a movement I'm trying to build. It's like the no vanity movement, and it's like I'm trying to be less like in front of the camera. That's why like I'm growing my beard out, growing my hair out, just cause I'm not trying to be known as another like uh face. I want to be known as a voice, and I want my ideals to spread more so than anything I look like or anything that I may exhibit. Because I hate stereotypes. Because if you hear the ideals I express, you wouldn't think I had a story that I have, you know? And that's what I want to reign supreme. And like as artists and then as advocates, we had a duty to the community to one, be real, but two, also be captivating in a way that makes their daily pressures go away. And that's a struggle because sometimes everybody doesn't need substance in terms of hearing about the way and issue and the way out of the way and issue. Sometimes they need that fun music, and like as somebody who makes music, it's all about your vibe and like the current mindset you in and how you cultivate that music. And sometimes you may not be mindful of what you cultivate. And going back to like your granny and having no celebrities, I think those are some of the most beautiful people that we have on this planet. The people who were able to cultivate their internal before they worried about the external world and their external pressures. And like with this no vanity movement, I'm big on, man, get your ass away from the screen. If you want to look at something, just sit your ass down and just stare out the window or do something like that. But move your body, do something, bro. Like you'll discover a lot about yourself just moving around because despite what they may want you to think, we not sedentary creatures, we're nomadic. So you may wander into the adventure that may make your life 10 times more valuable to you. Not saying that you add value to your environment or the world, but 10 times more valuable to you. And a part of that is we need to nurture a community because community is so fragmented right now. And like in terms of community, community is acknowledging the uniqueness of everybody, but giving them a place to belong. And I feel like that's a lot of things that's missing because everybody wants to be so on and so forth for success. And I feel like we need to get away from the labeling altogether and just come back towards everybody put their piece into it to make a whole pie. You feel me? And that way we all get something out of it. Because right now I feel like everybody just want to take a bite of the pie and they don't want to put no ingredients into the pie being baked itself. You know? And a lot of that go into nurturing our youth to be unique within themselves and turn off the TV in terms of if we put them in front of the TV, those are the only ideas that they disperse to or exposed to. So that come into the nurturing. And with that being said, saying they can be exposed to positive things, but it's a matter of the parent being energized enough to be in that environment to control that environment. And that's the thing that we're fighting upwardly against because we're in a society where you require a two-parent household, but most households, not most households, a lot of households nowadays, I would say, are becoming fragmented in terms of both parents go to work and the child goes to a care system, either that's school or activities. And that's not necessarily been successful for our society because it's became more prevalent after the era of people who didn't have celebrities, ironically. That generation of your grandmother, her children experienced a different reality than her. And that's something that we need to examine. Maybe we need a prohibition of TV. We need a prohibition of corporations because since the 1920s, we can say our country has deteriorated. We were on such a exponential growth path, but if you look at it now, we don't have growth, but we have people at the top getting rich. It's an illusionary number where they say how many millionaires are being made every year in the U.S. If you look at the birth rates in the U.S., 85% of those millionaires being made are birthed. So it's only 15% of people out of the 1% that are not blue bloods. Not to say like it's a bad thing. It's just the reality of what's going on. But I would want more people to be aware to that. Like not to say anything good or bad about that, but that's just the reality of what's going on. So we gotta find gratitude in the environment, but also want to build ourselves to be better too. So it's like a hard battle to fight the way that and balance to being grateful but also wanting more. That's something that I feel like everybody struggle with.
I think when it comes down to finding that balance, like how I mentioned, like my grandmother, um, she had hobbies. Like, bro, she had a life. She had a social network. Like, she did not need to be the most important person ever. And I feel like that happens. Like, I feel like we were already headed towards like a individualistic mindset because of capitalism. I personally believe COVID made it worse. Like just being in the crib, like really like going nutty. All right, isolating yourself in the crib. I feel like that's an aspect of it. But to look at right now, like I can see why it's hard to find gratitude in some shit. But we need to understand that it's two sides to that because you could be grateful for what you have, but then I also feel like you shouldn't be grateful for what you don't have. So for the things that you achieve and feel like if you give yourself a challenge or you give yourself something to like some limit to push beyond and you achieve that, then be grateful because you could. Like I feel like we need to start setting those like and we need to start tackling smaller goals before we get to bigger ones. Personally, I believe like the biggest epidemic we would probably face is the mental health one right now because I couldn't expect people to spend money right if they mentally unhealthy. I couldn't expect people to lead anybody if they mentally unhealthy. Couldn't expect people to have good relationships. So I know how you said systematically, like a lot of society impacts the way like the upbringing of children is affected. But household to household, a lot of us are impacted by like poor mental health of our parents. And to go to my grandma's generation, like, yeah, they kept a copacetic, but they wasn't mentally healthy. They wasn't. Like some of them got through it, some of them held together, like some of them that shit worked for, but what got passed down was the generational traumas. Like we that shit got passed down. So we talk about a decline, like it's a decline of the people, and like the people reflect the system. If we were in a capacity where we could rebel, we would. We just aren't because we're just not there. Like, and every time there was a rebellion, somebody was conscious of something, and people agreed. It wasn't no one man rebellion. You may have heard of like a berserker every now and then that went off and went crazy, but come on, like how often is that? And then it's more practical not to do that. Why? There are more people around now. There are more eyes around now. Like there are more ways you could go wrong, more than ever. But on a brighter note, we have way more than my grandma has. Like as far as like access and ways to be successful and like ways to cultivate ideas and to connect with different cultures and just talk to each other across the world. Like we have cool ass technology, bro. We just have a bad mindset. I'm pretty sure, like I personally believe if we fix the mindset, like fix it at home, fix it inside, fix it in the heart, find your soul, whatever you got to do, then we will start looking at technology in a more expansive way than just consumerism, because that's what it caters to. Like a lot of our iPhones, like we care about the front facing camera. But you know what? When I went to work a couple days ago, I was talking to this little white kid. He like 22. Like he like a rock band type. Like he one of those. Like it was my orientation. So he happened to sit next to me. And I was asking him what his hobbies is. And he was like, dude, I like lifting. I like playing I like playing in a band. Like me and my brothers just got a band 2 weeks ago. And he's like, I love video games. And I'm thinking like, oh, okay. And he's like, yeah, I like dude shit. So he's talking to me about video games. And he's talking to me about video games in such a way where I'm like, oh, this nigga's a nerd for real. Like, yeah, I can tell he only hangs around himself. But it wasn't until he started talking about the fact that he was going to build himself a computer that I really understood he loves video games. You see what I'm saying? And it's shit like that I wish black people had, like, where we can know the ins and outs of the things we love to that extent. I feel like we gotta love something to that extent first.
So I feel like that's an illusion within the black community of diversity not existing, and it goes back to the line of thinking that I have is that we're the only culture in the world where we are completely separated from one another. Only culture. Only culture that's purposely separated from one another. And people don't acknowledge that. And another thing you spoke on was about technology as well. Speaking on the technology, in terms of technology, I feel like people don't understand that advancement is simplicity. It's not complexity. You go backwards when you get complex things that you have to operate that you don't understand. Because if you master a simple tool, you could build a masterpiece. But with a complex tool, you can only do such simple things. And because things are so accommodating nowadays, it won't lead to invention. It won't lead to growth because everybody thinks everything is already there. And that's the problem that we're facing is not enough people are being aware that exposure leads to expansion. We're being trained with a corporate system that trains in inadequacy into us. When if in reality we could fix the problem in the U.S. if we just change the schooling system in terms of the rigidness of it, in terms of what we teach our children, because our children in a generation they could save us in terms of if we educate them properly. If we educate them from early on to be lawyers, doctors, and dentists early on, if they could start learning that stuff once they turn like 9, you could literally learn that stuff because it's common information. Because they say after 5th grade is all fluff. It's all fluff after 5th grade. Did you know that? Originally, when they designed school, it only went up to 5th grade. That's just when the kids are old enough to understand what's going on. So currently, we have a lot of fluff to insulate the day so the parents can be preoccupied with work. And people don't understand that's been trained into the system. We haven't educated or updated our education system since Rockefeller when it was implemented. We need change, and like people worry about the dumbest shit. Like, yeah, people worry about the dumbest shit. Like, somebody want to cut their dick off, let them. Somebody want to do some shit like that, let them. Cause what the fuck is we worried about that for when it's shit that we could really fix that really fucking matter? Cause why the fuck are we worried about 0.5% of the population? Why are we even placing restrictions on some crazy shit? Just let it happen. Let the long term results show if it should be a thing or not. Leave that be because it's the land of the free, not the land of the restriction. Because people got the freedom to succeed and fail. So back into that, I think we should really be focused on changing the systems, not necessarily even changing people. Because I know you don't want to mess with power because that's why they killed Jesus. Not because of his message, but because he messed with the money, quite literally. They was gambling in the church, flipped the table, and that was raps for Jesus. You feel me? You don't want to mess with the money. I just want to help my people be free.
Now hear me out. That just became proven wrong because we just fucked Elon Musk up. So it's been shown that we can actually come together and either exalt somebody like Donald Trump or tear somebody down like Diddy or like Elon. Like we know we can both do that. But hold on. It takes a unison to do that. And you see people come together. Like there's hella movements when people jumped in, even if they had not shit to do with it. Like I think about January 6th. Like when they stormed the Capitol, that was a team. Those are hella different white people. They were not all the same white person, but yet and still they came together. And so for us, it's like we're gonna come together for different things, but we have to have reasons too. And like when we talk about the school system, everybody there is a agreement that the school system is fucked up, but there's a huge disagreement by how people want to go about it and what education people feel like is more important than the others. I personally am on the stance of like you have to cultivate morals, ethics, and like a worldly perception before you want to start engaging with like politics, certain like ways to use technology, and other aesthetics of life. Because I feel like if you don't know yourself, bro, you're just going to cling to an ideology that's like you were given. Like I say that because I wasn't the greatest in school, but it wasn't that I couldn't perform well in school. I just didn't want to go because of like social pressure. So I used to ditch class a lot. But there are people to this day where all that they have is that they pride was that like they did well in school, like and they highly educated. And I've seen a highly educated person in a nice ass foreign, and I've seen somebody with improper education and hella different life experiences in a nice ass foreign. And I think that we have to kind of give grace to other ways of success, but we have to make it so we not in each other's way doing it. Because some people might just be better as like that bookworm, going on college and going all the way. Because that might succeed for some people. But the reason why it wouldn't work for me is because I personally don't feel like that reflects real life. I feel like I didn't want to live my life based on something that could be taken from you. And your intelligence can in a very practical way. Like it don't matter how smart you are. Let's say I hit you in the back of the head with a brick and you brain dead, like or you stupid now, like you mentally different. Your intelligence is gone. And so I try to live life based on like the way I impact people. And before I realized that, I used to not care how I impacted people, just that I did impact people. And it made me act out in a lot of like negative ways. But then when I thought about like the fact that if I can impact somebody that deeply, then I can use it, I can swing it in the other direction. Like the biggest thing was okay, like I was kind of competing, thinking my impact wasn't big enough, but it just has to be deep enough. And like when we going about caring about children, like we have to think about what impact do we want them to build their life around, because children are always impacted. Like we already know, like your childhood is super developmental. So how do you really want your children to like build themselves up when you're not around?
So my vision with the education thing will go into that as well. Like, I remember somebody telling me about how in a Japanese or Chinese school system, before they take standardized tests, they work on the morals of the children. And granted, that's a form of brainwashing, but I think there should be uniform morals that everybody abide by to make community function smoothly. And that should be a part of education, is like exposing everybody to the etiquette of certain things and teaching them certain things that they wouldn't be exposed to at home necessarily. And also having a messenger that's conducive to those children. That's the biggest key, is having those elite messengers. That's one thing that's missing from the current school environment, is that elite messengers. You may have people who are elite with a subject, but they are not elite with communicating with the people who need to be communicated with. So that's something that needs to be trained as well. But I think the change is getting more youth into the education, like so you can weed out some of that old ingrained traditionalism that have certain things messed up as is. It's like at a certain point, the Nazis weren't aware that they were Nazis. So you gotta keep that in mind. And with that education system, is everything. Because if you implement that into the community, you make it so the community is a cycle of people replenishing one another. You create lifelines for more and more people, and those lifelines extend. And it could be a drastic change in less than 10 years if you really are consistent in implementing said change. And you have to break away from the corporate time structure, because the time structure is made to make you sleep deprived. And when you're sleep deprived, you're more prone to violence. You're more prone to every negative emotion. You're more prone to act on it because you just want to rest. Like that's why they call back in the day they used to arrest you to get you a rest for real, and it's like a get out of jail free card. Like literally, like jail used to be a place where they'll come get you, sit your ass down, let you cool off, let you take a break. You come back to work, you got your letter. You say, "Oh, I just got locked up. I wasn't doing nothing." You feel me? And you back to work. That's when you have more understanding of leadership, I would say. But that's something we need to get back to, because that's when community was community. You had your jailer, somebody you go to church with. You had your jailer, somebody you shop with. So you actually not treated less than human. Right now, people are too comfortable with being dehumanized because they think a system is more important than people. And that's what we need to get back to, is a humanistic approach of what's important and who is important. Uh,
So my question to you is, do you feel like do you feel like you took being institutionalized and tried to make it work the best for you? Or do you feel like the institution is supposed to work for everybody and they just don't let it?
I would think the institution is a flawed design. Uh, it's a means to hold war prisoners and a means to really oppress people. I think if you follow more of a less globalistic stance of like gelling, and you go back to before the 1920s and how our country was ran when it was progressing and flourishing. Granted, it was a lot of strife within our country prior to the 1920s, but heading to the 1920s, I feel like that was the peak in terms of just exponential growth between peoples, white, black, blue, purple. Everybody was experiencing growth and opportunity because they were allowed to cultivate themselves without the influences of the environment that wasn't aware to the factors within that current local environment. So, in terms of the institutionalized, I feel like I would say I'm somebody who can transport myself to other places with the pen. So as long as I got pen and paper, it don't matter where I'm at. I'm in my notebook. So I was always able to find that escape via writing. And everybody doesn't necessarily have that coping mechanism or that place they can escape to. So the institution is allowed to penetrate their being more. And the thing that gave me value when I was in the institution was pouring life into people who never had somebody around them who ain't want shit from them, but just want another nigga around them doing well. You feel me? Like one of the big things I was big about was it was like this little social work program when I was locked up and shit. Like I was like one of them people. I'm like, bro, hey, come on, slide. You gonna get this time cut? Come on, slide. Come on, you gonna get this time cut, bro? They said for real. Like they didn't read their paperwork. A lot of people don't understand that 85% of the reason that people are locked up is illiteracy, not criminality, but illiteracy. And a lot of times when I was in there, I seen that these guys were very smart people. It's just that they never were nurtured in a way where somebody could teach them how to do this thing. And they're not stupid because that doesn't make you stupid if you're asked to do calculus without being fucking taught calculus. You're not stupid. You're just put in an impossible situation where you needed some groundwork laid and it takes time and structure. And a lot of people may have had chaos in their environment. And that doesn't mean that they're any less valuable as human beings to society. But unfortunately, due to the corporate structure, they have requirements for people to get employed. So now we have a population of undesirables. That's why the mass incarceration became a thing and it gained steam after the 1920s. If you see our incarceration numbers grew exponentially just be due to sentencing. Do you know like back in the day, like you rob a nigga, they'll seek restitution before they seek anything else. But if you shoot the nigga, they gonna fry your ass. Like it was true eye for eye. Like well, justice is always subjective, so it was never true justice. But I'm just saying like before the brainwashing after the 1920s and before the corporate takeover of our government and our structures, it was a more I can't say civil. Well, I will say civil growth, and I think people should stop pursuing social growth because in terms of social, we have everything we need. We just need connectivity. We just need the forum to connect because I play flag football every Sunday and I think it's the Brownsville community, or it's like or the low end in the low end. It's like a black community. Like it's all black people. Peaceful every weekend, always fun, bro. And like it's never bad vibes. And I wish that was displayed more than people always saying like Chicago is negative, always dysfunction and all that, right? And it's like a lot of that is imaginary barrier that we draw. It was this one thing that I seen online. They drew a circle around the ant, then they drew a circle around the spider. When you draw that circle, both the insects are like thinking that it's barriers there. When it's an imaginary line, it's just a pencil. But once you show the spider that it could leave that circle, it never goes back in that circle. So you just have to expose people to the illusionary boundaries that we set for ourselves because a lot of the parameters that we set on life are imaginary and I want to expose people to you could be a success despite any failure that you have freedom still because it's hard to be successful if you're behind bars for life. But like I'm just saying, like in terms of like common situations, like everybody can be successful if they're able to perceive said success and perceive the pinnacle that they have to reach or the pinnacle that they're at. Like I live with the philosophy: if I die tomorrow, did I enjoy the peak? Did I enjoy it? Shit was hard, but even in the hard shit, did I enjoy that ice cream I ate? That little apple pie. You feel me? Maybe if I wasn't going through that hard shit, I would never been binge eating some shit I like. You know?
I feel like when it comes down to like success, like how you just mentioned, like it's hard to be successful if like your life is behind bars. I feel like we have to just redefine what success is. Um, and to me, success is being something where you're better than you were last week. Like I count that as success because success is always built. Like it's never overnight. So a successful person is somebody who goes maybe weeks or maybe even days with a W. Like and they know they have a W. You know what I'm saying? Like they know they set some type of parameter and they surpassed it. And so um like for you, like telling people that they can be successful, that's beautiful. Because I think we need to like wish each other that. Like how you mentioned the attitude in Chicago, it's more like yeah, it's an attitude. Like it's not reality. Like it is delusional. Like you can succeed here, but we have to help each other do that. Like instead, we help each other be paranoid and have reasons to be paranoid. But um, I feel like me as a black man, like what I see myself as when I'm successful, like I will have the abundance where I can help other people be abundant in like whatever way they want to be. So personally, like I will make my focus on fitness, health and wellness. I will make my focus on like getting back into the environment, not for like everybody to be like nomadic and nature boys, but for people to understand like how to cultivate the environment in the most like primordial raw form. So like I would want to teach people like how to have green thumbs because I feel like that helps people relate to life differently and they see life outside of human life. Like when you see trees and animals and bugs, like you look at life more than just human. And I think that's the biggest thing we have to do too. Like life is not just human. Like it's a lot beyond us. And like I feel like when we're trying to serve, that we're trying to make life better. You mentioned earlier, like, should people always try to like strive for a certain amount of greatness and will that make them be vain? I think that whenever there's a seed in the ground, it tries its hardest to grow. Like I don't feel like any seed gives up. I feel like if the tree wilts, then the tree wilts, but it tried. You mentioned an ant in the circle. Like ants survey the whole circle. You see what I'm saying? Like they go in circles. They never stop trying. Like when a bug is trying to get out the car, it keeps smacking the window. It never stops trying. I think life keeps trying. Like life will keep. There's some part of it that keeps chugging along. Like we don't get time back. We don't get energy back, but there's energy we still have, and there's time we still have. So that means there's a lot we can still be using. And like we talking about like potential, that's always in a new moment. And for us, like I don't think we need to find a way to like bring everybody together because I feel like that will naturally happen if we all just try to find things we love, the people we love to do it with, and then try to expand on that because at least whatever expansion comes is from a place of love and community love, like genuine community love. So we can grow with that. I think our culture does like the fact that we contribute, but I think we need to contribute more than just pain. I think we need to contribute more like I think we even have a certain amount of wisdom that's given. Like there's a certain amount of people that do give game and kick sauce, but we lack compassion. Like we grow with compassion. Like there are some things that need to be gentle. Like there are some parts of life that need that. And so for the people who did develop in very harsh circumstances, like for the people that did develop in very harsh circumstances, it's like they may not be able to cross over into like the softer areas of life. And we need the people to lead in that. Like being a leader is hard, but every leader shouldn't be stern. Like there are certain areas in life. Like when I think about the medical field, like there's usually not a doctor that encompasses every part of the body. Like they're like specialists for specific parts. Like there's a heart guy, a lung guy, a liver guy. Like, and we need to have our specialists come together. Like if we know you might excel in finance and somebody else might excel in like holistic shit on the highest level, and somebody else might be well versed in law. Like do something, like come together. Like you feel me? Like that might be an avenue for like other people that might want to come behind you and really make it work. But there's also that some people don't feel like your quality of life is a true contribution. We have to consider that too. Like being great in whatever area you are is the best thing you can do. Like as an individual, like, and you got to find that. That's my advice for anybody. Like find what you're best at. Like find what you like doing. Like that's the first thing you need to know. Like the first thing, because I do believe the one way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And so I feel like if you really put a striving out consistently, then everything you do, like you will strive to have balance, have equanimity. Like I feel like that could be achieved for sure, but through striving, bro. And like that looks different every day. Like some days striving is peaceful, some days it's not. Like we have to keep going. Like not have a quit attitude. I feel like what makes us stagnant, like what I think true stagnation is we lose sight of if we're quitting or not. Like we either go justify a reason to stop doing something or we're gonna find the best way to do it. And I think we need to ask ourselves, like at the peak of our frustrations, like, are we quitting or are we redirecting? And if we're quitting, why? And if we're not quitting, why? And then since we're not quitting, if we're not quitting, how are we gonna chug along? Because there's a better way. I want everybody to know there's always a better alternative to something. Like everything comes with a better alternative. And I'm not saying there's a best because better looks different for you and me, but there is an alternative. I want people to find like I want people to know there's a way to do it beyond what you see now.
But that go into the concept of everybody is a dumbass at one point, but very few people are stupid. But only thing that makes somebody stupid is just repetition. So how do you break people out of that loop of being stupid, not being able to be aware that they're being stupid, and how do you judge what's stupid and what's not stupid too? So it's a two-pronged question.
It's not really for me to judge what's stupid and what's not stupid because I don't know what will work. It's people online right now that's famous for being ugly. Years ago, you can only be famous for being beautiful. Like you don't know. And
But that's stupid. That's objectively stupid.
objectively becomes subjective because for other people that feel like they ugly, that's their way in. You know what I'm saying? Like
No, but the whole concept of framework of somebody being able to just get fame off of not what they do or who they are, just based off existing, is stupid. Because I feel like people's value isn't from what they produce or what they do. The value of everybody is valuable. Everybody has equal value. I feel like that's something that's being missed in the vanity of everybody being caught up in celebrity. That's why like I'm heavy on the no vanity movement because no vanity means every man is valuable. It don't matter how you look. It matters about your contribution to the pie. Like you bring something to the table that I don't bring, and as well as she brings something to the table that both of us don't bring, and the inverse is true as well. You feel me?
so, let's talk about it. This is a time where stupid people can still eat. And we have to look at that because if you don't think you're stupid and you're not eating, now you have to push harder. And you have to push harder in a way where you actually are fulfilled, not just in a way where you combating what you feel like is stupid. Because your success will set a trend too. You have to consider that. Like you being successful, the people that set trends, I don't know why we deem them successful, but some people do. Maybe you don't. So when it comes down to us, the shit that we actually care about, we have to actually spearhead, bro. Like that's how it works.
But going back into the discussion of like stupid and like sensible, stupid things does not weigh if you'll be successful or a failure in terms of your habits or anything like that. Stupid is more so the rigidness of having the availability of perspective. stupid people don't have the availability of perspective. Things are rigid to stupid people because it should go towards a certain pattern. That's the only thing that makes you stupid is if you can't pick up on anomaly. And like that's what I'm saying. It's like very rare that somebody is stupid because everybody is dumb in terms of not being able to hear a message or compute a message in certain ways until it's communicated properly. Because that's the only difference. Because I know I'm a dumbass about a lot of things. Like if you communicate to me about certain things, I wouldn't be able to compute it until we have a conversation. I ask questions I need to ask, and then I'll be able to understand it. But a stupid person will refute the understanding aspect of things, and like if things are above your understanding, they wouldn't have curiosity to it. It would just become something that doesn't exist or it can't exist in their rigid framework. So that's the only way that people are stupid. I would say is just not being available to anomaly, not being available to understand that everything ain't as uniform as the ideal is presented. Like sometimes I struggle with the church community because I've been in church since I was a young child, so been listening to the word and all that. But sometimes it turns you away when the older people in the church start turning their cheek to certain people instead of giving their embrace, because that's all the church is meant to do is to nurture the community. And a lot of people are spiritually trained to inadequacy, so they view inadequacy as something that disgusts them and others, and really it's just a projection of the internal weakness, not being able to see your weakness in somebody else and be able to nurture it out of them in terms of giving your experience and your wisdom so they don't have to travel the hard route that you went through. Or if they one of those people who learn from hitting their head, at least they have you in their ear and now they know what to do when they hit their head or things like that.
All right. Well, so like how you just mentioned, like there are some things you got to keep asking questions to understand to make sure you really digest it. That's actually something that I feel like is a blessing and a curse in my life because I was raised in a way to be intolerant to the opinions of crowds, be it church communities, certain family members, like certain people in school. I was just raised to be proficient in my actions. Like everybody wasn't raised for that, but that doesn't mean my parents did not care about like upholding certain status quos because they did that well, but that was also instilled in them. But for me personally, like out of all my siblings, I kind of championed not being against the grain, but not going against the grain. Like if something is just not me, I'm not gonna do it. So we talk about like the church community, for example. I never cared about how they judged others because I always knew as a child people go to church because they need it. You know what I'm saying? Like people don't, the people that really show up, maybe it's for different reasons, but they need the help because the people that really feel like they won with God to a certain level, they just be at the crib with their Bible, bro. Like, and that's a certain people hit that state, or even if you want to call it like Christ conscious. Like I'm not saying like you got to speak in tongues or some shit like that, but everybody had like it's levels to a lot of this shit, and I think that's like the difference between like somebody who developed with a coach and somebody who developed in a home gym. And I feel like it's a whole different mindset. It's still about proficiency, but it happens differently. So if you're going to be sensitive to the crowd, then what I learned is that you have to look at the needs of the crowd, like their actual needs, not the disconnect that they have with each other, but what do they need? But because I was raised on kind of the outside of that, bless you. When crowd said it was fuck me, it was never for me. It was I want them to like me because it does feel safe when you don't feel like a crowd is isolating you or like putting you in a black sheep type of mentality. Like that's a safety feeling. But I had to acknowledge that the reasons why they like me is because I thought in ways that transcended the normal thought patterns. like the normal thought structures. So I had to kind of eventually choose between either I'm a blend in and dissolve into some shit that I won't hit my potential, but that I can proficiently do, or know that I have more potential and that process of attaining it people won't see. But when I finally touch something and I bring back proof of like my success, they'll see that. But I think that comes down to how can you deal with loneliness? Because if you're sensitive to the crowd, you do feel lonely. Like if you don't feel like you blend in well, if you feel like people judge you, and I'm not saying feel like they're not, it's just that I learned this. I judge people based on how they judge. So I do judge. I struggle with judgment, but I have to change how I judge. Like the most practical thing I can do was I have to understand that being competitive when you're not actually in the sport makes you a narcissist, or it can lead to that because that's what a lot of jobs like stir you into. I'm gonna go into that. For example, in sports, it's natural to want to be better than another team or another player naturally. But in regular society, you cannot say you're going to have cohesive relationships if the mentality is, I feel at peace if I'm better than somebody. You would have to look at them as equals. And we don't have that mentality. Like, it kind of makes you, the distance you put between a genuine interaction with somebody literally weighs on how bad you want to be better than them and how uncomfortable you would be if they were on the same level as you. Because that's another thing. Like, it's some people that genuinely are not better than people, but that want to be so bad that what they would end up doing is they would get friend circles where they're blatantly better than their friends in some type of way, or they would try to associate with people that they feel like are better than them so they can feel like they're gaining something, but it still makes them vain because at the end of the day, they feel like they don't have something. So they're trying to gain something. But and that's why I say like it would make you when you want to be great, it's naturally comparing some set of results to somebody else's. But when you want to feel fulfilled, I think that literally just comes from like, did I try today? Did I try harder than I did last time? What were my results? Like people say doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results does make you insane. But there's a part of me that likes my geniuses crazy too, because they do keep trying and they try in different ways. But it seems like on the outside, like, damn, bro, they doing the same shit. But underneath the surface, bro, they're applying it and perceiving it differently every time. So they get something out of it different every time. And I think that we have to think about what that means for us in terms of like how we're going to grow. Because if you're trying to develop and you're trying to succeed in ways that you hate, bro, you ain't never gonna use your talents in the best way. But if you try to succeed in areas that you're comfortable in and that like you're willing to be uncomfortable to get better at that, bro, you're gonna do amazing things every time. But we just have to understand that doesn't guarantee fame. Like greatness and fame don't correlate. Like, and fame isn't needed to be great. So I won't use fame as a metric of success, but I will say like fame, I don't think it's owed to anybody. Like I feel like anybody can get it. We just have to know like it's a part of life. Like some people are famous, some people aren't. That's just a part of life. That's okay. Like we can move past that. If it's you, try to give back, represent all that other good shit. But if it's not, still do your part by being your best. Like that's all I can ask for. That's what I would try to do. It's the best I could do.
So tackling a lot of things you said. So when I was a shorty, I was not even shorty. I was like probably 19, maybe a dub. I was in this rap group. It's called Army of Generals. The concept was everybody a general in their own way, in their own right. And like personally, I don't really. I play sports and all that shit, bro. And the thing that could kill like my nature to compare myself to another player was when I saw I was busting nigga ass all day and I still didn't get an opportunity. At that point, I had to decide: am I gonna dog it or am I gonna compete with myself every rep and try and get better? And like as far as a comedy aspect, of we both comedians, bro. I'm not necessarily competing with the next comedian because I feel like I'm my own lane of comedy. So I'm my own genre of comedy. So everybody could be great in their own route. And I feel like I'm the best at being me. So I can't be nobody else. And as far as like the competitive nature with it, I just lost my urge to compete with other people. I just want to be the greatest version of me just because I found so much unhappiness from wanting to be seen as the best player and instead of being like I'm always trying to be the best version of me because in my heart of hearts I know I'm the best player. But even if somebody don't realize it, it's not for them to realize. If you know, you know. That's like one of those sayings that they have. If you know, you know. So I want to be one of those best kept secrets at everything. If that's the case, like personally, I hope I never get fame and notoriety. I hope I'm just that cool ass person that you met, like that got a good podcast, got good music, a good person. You feel me? Like that. That's what my legacy I want left behind. It ain't necessarily no achievements. It's just like just the positive energy. You feel me? Somebody who want to see another nigga win, no matter what the fuck they doing, unless they hurting people. I don't want to see somebody winning if they trying to win at hurting people, because then that's counterproductive. But otherwise, bro, I don't know, G. Like shit, not as complex as we make it seem, and we need to really get back to the basics. And it really resonates with me how you spoke on your granny, and like with your granny, how she had that like deep rooted sense of self and like had a disconnect from the media and things going on. And I think that's something I'm trying to cultivate within myself. And it's just noticing what takes my energy and what distracts. And I I I just feel like this this conversation is powerful in terms of nurturing and cultivating just because you put ideals out there. I wouldn't necessarily have looked at it at that perspective, and I value that heavily, brother. Like everybody can't express an ideal as clearly as you expressing it, and that's the talent that you have to spread your light as a entertainer, bro. Like I ain't gonna put you in a box as a comedian. I ain't gonna put you in a box as an entertainer. I should say as a voice. You feel me? Because that's gonna be your mark, your voice, and your distinct delivery and how you tell a story, bro. Like that's powerful. Uh, say I be going on tangents every now and then, bro. I hope it gets succinct. The tangents work out though when you clipping, but but you get what I'm saying in a long winded way, bro. Like damn, I don't even know where I was going with that one, bro. I ain't gonna lie. I just feel like my spirit was touched, and I just had to vocalize that. But you can round us back to the topic.
For sure, yeah. Back to the topic. Yeah, it was about nurturing, and I'll go back over my key points. Like definitely seeking the self as far as discerning what's giving you energy and taking energy from you. Like when you feel drained versus when you feel like you're energetic and enthusiastic to get some shit done. Um, the second thing is if you're going to be the independent type, then self mastery has to be your primary goal. I would definitely say like don't be overly sensitive about criticism outside of your path at that point because you chose to be kind of like in a loner route. So when you seek your answers, like they have to come from within for sure. Like, and you have to keep questioning: is this coming from a place of self love? Like, is this helping me or hurting me? And is this benefiting me? Is this benefiting somebody else? And is there a way my actions could benefit me and somebody else? And I feel like that helps on the path of self mastery. Um, when it comes down to how to relate to the community, I would say like nurturing somebody else is just understanding that we're all suffering and that the part you're wanting to play is in trying to lessen that suffering for somebody else. Like that's what you got to keep in mind. So that's where the patience to come from. Um, when it comes down to the education system, I feel like the first thing we need to educate ourselves is on how to relate to ourselves in a better way. Like I said, I'm still an advocate for mental health. I feel like that's going to be the core of a lot of our problems moving forward, despite the problems that are here now. And I say like mental regulation is the key. And in order to do that, like really check in with yourself, check in with like how your decisions are impacting you and your environment, um, and look for alternatives. Like there's always an alternative. Like that's another big thing I want to end on. Like there's always a better way to do something, and achieving something can have so many like alternate routes. But just understand that seeking alternatives comes with a no quitter attitude. And so if you're ever getting like sad or confused or like you're losing your like footing and like what do you feel like you're doing, ask yourself like, are you about to quit? And if you are going to quit, why? Like, and where's that coming from? And if you aren't going to quit, like, what's the best way to navigate the situation at that point? And another thing too, I kind of forgot that I said in the beginning. Um, don't be so quick to avoid certain pains. Like a lot of our problems is that we're very avoidant of pain, and that I just want people to know like some pains are necessary. Like some pains are very temporary. Like they'll pay off in the end. But I'm not advocating just suffering for the sake of like some things are going to suck for sure. Like I'm not even saying it's not, but ultimately getting through the day is cultivating small centers of happiness for yourself. Like those are what I call small successes. Like trying to take action without too much expectation and actually being fulfilled in what you're doing. So I say find what those actions are. And yeah, that's it.
AT, hope you enjoyed. That's this episode of Critical Thinking. I want to thank our sponsors, Share Designs, Critical Thinking Entertainment, Be Smooth Juicing. We appreciate you all. Without you, this wouldn't be possible. AT, hope you enjoy.